Big review today. It's on my wrist. The new Vertix 2 from COROS. It's a big tent update from the GPS watch company, and is their new top-shelf watch offering with some interesting new features. The new version features dual-frequency GPS, which claims to provide faster and better signal strength, and can talk to GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, QZSS, and BeiDou satellite systems. It also has a 20% faster chipset that can provide a noticeable speed increase in the UI and benefits the new onboard maps feature for navigation and offline location finding. Also has a bigger, higher resolution screen, an ECG to HRV sensor, and finally, some stout battery life updates now extending to a claimed 140 hours of standard full GPS tracking and 60 days of normal use. That is some big claims for this little GPS watch, but does it deliver on those claims? And at $699, is the Vertix 2 worth it? Hopefully we'll find out in today's review. Let's dive in.
Ginger Runner.
What is up, everybody? Ethan Newberry, the Ginger Runner, here for another Ginger Runner review. I'm excited about this one because I've had this product for months. I've actually had it long beyond when I was supposed to send it back. It's the COROS Vertix 2. So COROS, I apologize, I still have it, but you've been updating it almost every week, so I wanted to make sure that we tested everything before I dropped this review. Here we are with the review. So much to talk about. A couple of things before we dive into the review. First, Gingermas. It's just around the corner. We are, of course, in the holiday season, and it has been our annual event where we just give back to the viewers, the community, the GR crew. It is free. All the information is in the description of this video for you if you would like to register for Gingermas this year. A lot of great stuff to give away. Secondly, as with all of my reviews, I have to point out that the Vertix 2 was provided for review by COROS. I'm under no obligation to say anything positive or negative about the Vertix 2. I'm not financially compensated for anything I say in this review. All opinions are my own. No one has to approve this review before it goes live. You're the first to see it. Thirdly, obviously, we're still building the set. I'm pretty excited about it. We'll hopefully debut everything in its full glory in 2022. But for now, you just get to look at a ladder and some empty shelves. What's happening? And finally, I like to point out with any sort of tech-based reviews that I do that I definitely come from a very specific perspective on these products. I by no means am an elite mountaineer that's scaling 14ers on a daily basis. I come at it from a trail running, ultra running perspective, and that is where I base most of my opinions and my overall experiences with the product. So just get that disclaimer out of the way. I always like to talk about the things I like and dislike about a product. The Vertix 2 is no different. We're going to start today's review with the things that I like. And actually, I'm just going to take it off my wrist so I'm not just pointing at it the whole time. First, battery. I think COROS is doing something magical. I talk about this in all of my reviews of COROS watches. They somehow managed to squeeze out all of the battery juice in these watches, and they just last for a very long time. Now, this watch comes with a claim of 140 hours of standard GPS mode availability, 60 days of standby or just regular use. I have not been using the watch in that manner. I basically turned on every feature, dual frequency GPS, heart rate tracking. I just want to turn everything on, use all of the features of the watch that I would use on a regular basis, track everything. What I have found is that it is just below the predicted or stated values. So with everything turned on, COROS says you'll get about 50 hours of usage out of this watch, which is a lot. I'm getting around 42 to 43 hours out of full usage on this watch. So again, dual frequency, heart rate monitor on, full tracking, all that good stuff. And it is a great standard to set. So COROS continues to push the battery envelope. If you do put this watch just in standard GPS mode, that's going to nearly double your battery life. You'll get closer to 90 plus hours in this thing, which is still a lot. Second, maps and navigation. So this is actually a huge update, not just to the Vertix 2. The Vertix 2 was sort of the first COROS watch to come out with this feature, but it has now sort of trickled down to additional models in the COROS line. But having offline maps and being able to navigate on this watch is a really nice benefit. So if you're off on a trail somewhere and you get to a turn where you need to figure out which way to go, you don't know, you don't have your phone with you, that is a really nice feature to be able to plug in, turn on the maps, see kind of where you're at. You can turn on the hybrid map mode, you can turn on just the topo map mode. It gives you a decent look at where you are. It's not perfect, but having it on the watch and available to you is a nice feature, and I'm glad to see COROS diving into that realm. I can only imagine how much work it was just to get the maps in there. This is a great feature for those of you who do not like to bring your phone with you. I do tend to run with my phone. I do still tend to use offline maps on a map when needed, but there have been a couple of times where I don't have my phone with me, where I do use the watch feature, and it works. It works. Bigger screen. So this is a subtle change. It goes from a 1.2-inch screen to a 1.4-inch screen, a little bit higher resolution as well. It is a small but noticeable difference. I personally like to display as much information on a single screen as possible. With this new screen size, the new resolution, I'm able to get 8 data sets on a typical trail run screen. So I'm not having to scroll through a bunch of stuff. I can, design that screen to look how I want, have the data that I need, and with 8 data sets displayed at once, I don't have to switch screens, I don't have to switch modes. It's great. Improved UI, so user interface. This is something that I think COROS is constantly working on. It is very similar to Garmin. Those of you who are Garmin lovers, you will notice the similarities. And the new versions of the UI are certainly no different than that. There are a lot of different data sets that you can kind of scroll through. You can kind of see your daily tracking, heart rate, steps, stuff like that. It's all very easily accessible. It also is very snappy. I think that new processor, they claim a 20% increase in speed and efficiency and that sort of thing. It is noticeable. I think you're able to get through the menus much quicker. I've called them out on that in the past where you're having to press buttons or use the scroll wheel and there's lag. The input's not great. So now it just feels quicker. It's cleaner. I do think it works well. And you also have to take into account the app. It's not just the watch and the hardware here. It's the firmware as well as the app integration. And I think COROS does a decently good job of that. Most of the interaction you do with the watch, in my experience, is through the app, whether you're designing workouts and stuff like that. It all seems to work fairly seamlessly. I haven't really had many issues with that. So the improved UI both here and on the app is welcome. Speaking of firmware, the firmware updates. So I have got to give COROS credit. They are constantly updating and improving not only the experience with their watches on a regular basis, but through their app as well. Since getting this watch a couple of months ago and using it on a daily basis, it has improved 6, 7, 8 times through firmware updates. There's been new features that have been added that are surprising and quite welcome. So now Strava routes, you can actually incorporate routes that you create on Strava directly to the watch. It's a great interactive feature that will allow you to design your runs and put them on the watch without having to figure it out through a GPX downloaded file and stuff like that. Another new feature, you can control your GoPro from your watch. You can start and end recording, that sort of thing. It's really great if you're putting a GoPro somewhere and you want to step away from it and control it. There is distance limitations to that, but it is a nice additional feature. And really one of my favorite updates that they incorporated into the firmware is a new quick access button. So now if you click the light button and you hold it down, it'll activate a cool new feature, and you can choose from a variety of features that it will activate. I immediately set this to backlight on. One thing I find is that the screen of this tends to be a bit dark, no matter what time of day that I'm running with the watch. I like to have a bit of backlight on. So now hold that light button down. It activates a dim backlight, so you can read your watch through pretty much all conditions, including the night. But you're also able to click that backlight button again, activate the full backlight brightness, and then turn it back off. And you can hold it down to deactivate it. It's a really cool feature, very easy to incorporate. I'm glad they did it, and it has been a welcome feature. So you're not having to dig through multiple menus to turn on backlight or turn on night mode. Now you can just do it with a quick hotkey button press. I love it. And just a quick note on those likes, many of them are not specific to the Vertix 2. So some of those trickle down to other watch models in the COROS line. Just wanted to point that out before I get to the dislikes. Yes, my friends, it is not all jolly old St. Nick's and hot chocolate parties. There are a couple of things that I dislike about the COROS Vertix 2. Let's get to those now. Music. So this is a new feature that they're highlighting with the Vertix 2. They have now incorporated a 32 gig music player on the watch. The reason I'm including this in a dislike, because I have asked for music players in the past on watches. It's nice to not have to carry your phone if you like to listen to music on the run. The incorporation of it works. So using Bluetooth headphones, little buds, anything like that, it's actually pretty dialed in. The problem is that I think using MP3s or considering this an MP3 player is dated. Only MP3s that I find that I have on my computer are the music that I make that I have to upload to iTunes or Spotify, that sort of thing, because I make all the music for this channel and for the videos and stuff. So those are the only MP3 files that I have on the watch. I can only imagine how difficult it is for them to try to incorporate with products like Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube Music. The licensing, the paperwork, I just don't think that COROS is a big enough company to be able to have those relationships. So it does not work with those platforms. You just basically have to plug it into your computer, drag over the MP3s, and then you can listen to them on the watch. If that is your thing, if you are still using that type of technology, then hey, this is a great feature for you, and it incorporates quite well with Bluetooth. So Bluetooth headsets, that sort of thing. And it works. It's quick. It's fun. But for me, I just don't use it. I usually have Spotify with me on the phone. That is how I listen to music. The heart rate monitor, specifically the ECG HRV feature. So they're touting it as a really cool benefit, having that ECG capabilities within the watch, the HRV, which is heart rate variability. So with HRV, the Vertix 2 gives you a number somewhere between 0 and 100 that sort of tells you how stressed out you are or how stressed your body is. That number is really only comparable to that number. So you have to do those HRV checks on a regular basis to sort of compare the number. It's just not really a feature that I'm seeing as beneficial. The SpO2 max stuff, I'm not recording that data. I'm not at altitude on a regular basis, so it's not something that I really need to track. The HRV is a very similar number to me. Limiting workouts to 20. So this is a minor dislike, but honestly, with 32 gigs in this watch just set aside for music, give me one of those gigs for workouts, because I'd like to program as many workouts as I want and be able to upload them to the watch and use them. It's limited right now to 20. And I have many more than that. You know, there's ladder workouts of varying length. There's hill repeat workouts of varying length and outputs. Like, there's all these different variabilities within the workouts that I have. I have more than 20, and I would like to import them into the watch and not have to worry about deleting some or reprogramming some. Give me more than 20. The navigation, the maps. So, as I mentioned, it is a nice new feature. It does trickle down to a couple of other models. I don't think that the map itself is quick or interactive enough. You are having to scroll around a bit and having to let things load, dial in. You have to zoom in, let things load, zoom out, let things load, because there's no labels, right? So you're having to sort of interact with the map in a way that shows you where you are, kind of get your bearings. That's a difficult wall to overcome when you're trying to find your way in the mountains. The other thing that I have a problem with, specifically on the 50K, no 50K that I ran, I programmed in the route. I wanted to just test some of these features, navigation features, and it just kept turning me around. One of the main problems I had was that the arrow kept telling me that the route was behind me rather than ahead of me. I can only imagine it was just some minor way I was wearing the watch, or what way I was oriented, or the fact that maybe I missed a checkpoint or something along the route. It was annoying. So I ended up turning the feature off and just not using it because it just kept telling me the wrong way to go. And I think that may be easily improved with firmware updates. It may have already been improved. I just haven't really used that particular feature since because it was such a bad experience. So just making note of that. I don't think the navigation or the maps are dialed in to the point where they are fully usable and make you happy when you use them. Dual frequency GPS. So, I have not necessarily had the experience where this is a huge benefit over standard GPS. In specific testing where I'm running single track out and backs, just so I can track exactly where the line is in one direction and where that GPS line is in the opposite direction, where the variability in real world experience is less than 2 feet. What I have found is that the lines aren't as close as I would have expected in a dual frequency watch that is supposedly faster, more accurate, and just better at tracking overall GPS positioning. It is not to the standard that I would expect for something that is claiming to be, all of this tech and so great at being able to track your position. What I do think is that standard GPS is still pretty damn good. I don't necessarily think that dual frequency GPS is that big of an improvement to justify the cost. Is this something that they can improve in the future? I'm absolutely positive that they will. I can only imagine the COROS is consistently trying to improve this feature so this watch does become the standard in GPS tracking. But for now, I still think that standard GPS is the way to go. It also, again, improves the battery life on this watch exponentially. So consider that when you're shopping for this watch. But that also takes me to my final dislike, which is just overall price. $699. It's a lot to spend. There are other watches out there that are at that price point that deliver a lot of the same features. I just don't think it justifies that cost because I don't think the features that it's claiming are going to be revolutionary and breakthrough are as great as one would hope. But looking at this watch at a $100 or $200 less price point, it would be a different story. Even looking within the COROS line at something like the Apex Pro, which only has a couple of features different than the Vertix 2, it's a $200 less watch, and I think you get still a fantastic experience out of that one. So the price point is just, it's a bit too steep. But that is it for my dislikes. So I normally in a review will talk about the breakdown, where we kind of talk about build quality, comfort, fit, price and style, and all that sort of stuff. I won't be doing that with this just purely because it's a watch. It doesn't really quantify in any of those categories. But what I will do is give you my overall conclusion and whether or not the Vertix 2 is a buy, try, or why. The COROS Vertix 2 is the company's new flagship model. However, I don't think it flies its flag high enough or justifies the high cost. I think there are other watches within the COROS line, specifically the Apex Pro, which give you as many of the features that you would need in this watch for $200 less. I think some of the advanced features in the Vertix 2 may not necessarily be worth the investment at this point in time. These additional features being the ECG or HRV reading, music, and the dual satellite function. Those three things alone I don't necessarily think are worth the $200 upgrade to the Vertix 2 over something like the Apex Pro. And I've come to that conclusion purely by looking at what do I use on a day-to-day basis, what would a typical runner, trail runner, or ultra runner use on a day-to-day basis, and what are some of those advanced features that they might use occasionally. As long as what I'm wearing can track the data that I want to look at or read later, that's pretty much the experience that I want to get out of it. I love what COROS is trying to do, and I do really appreciate a company that is extremely responsive with firmware updates and feature set updates. It's just, they're always pushing the envelope of what they can cram into these little things. And compared to other much larger companies that tend to be much slower and sluggish in their firmware updates, I think COROS is very responsive. I think that is an exciting aspect to this company. Just in the few months that I've been wearing this watch day to day, the number of features that they've added to it have been wonderful. And again, I cannot emphasize enough how nice it is to wear a watch with a battery that just lasts for a month, if not more, depending on what mode that you're using the watch in. So that is COROS' claim to fame, at least in my opinion at this point, is that their battery life is just through the roof, and this model continues to improve upon that. I do think that the Apex Pro, or even the Pace 2, are better options at lower price points that still get you an incredible feature set. Maybe just not as many features as the Vertix 2. So, bringing me to my final criteria, is the Vertix 2 a buy, try, or a why? I will say this specific watch may be more of a why, but a COROS watch in general is definitely a try. If you are a Suunto user, or a Garmin user, or Polar, or Wahoo even, you're probably using a watch going, what is the point of upgrading? But you may be curious about trying other models, and I would encourage you to check out COROS if you haven't already, purely for that battery life. Again, that tends to be their big selling point that I can't overemphasize enough. Bringing us to our final question, have you tried the Vertix 2? Is it a watch that excites you, or does it have features that you want in a watch? And I'm curious if there is a feature that you do not see in any watches today that you do want to see. In the comments of this video, let me know. Let's get that dialogue going. And I appreciate you watching this review. If you liked it, make sure you like, favorite, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, do all that stuff. The more interacting you're doing with the video, the better YouTube's algorithm likes it. So, do that. Social media links, all that good stuff. If you want to join our GR crew and join our daily live streams, we have like a book club and a trivia night, all that good stuff. You can go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. All tiers get really fun perks. We really put a lot of effort into that. Make sure that everyone gets what they can out of it. So join the GR crew. We'd love to have you. That, my friends, is it. We hope you're getting out there, training hard, racing harder, and partying the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week. Lots of fun stuff coming.
Bye.